To provide for my family, I had to work the night shift, spending long hours away from home. My mom provided invaluable help, staying with our son Liam, while Emily, my wife, supposedly went to a friend's house. As I would later find out, a completely different reality was hidden behind those words. It was only 6 months after the start of these mysterious absences that I learned the truth that turned my whole life upside down. I found out where she was really going, leaving me in ignorance and complete trust. And the worst thing was, my mom knew about everything from the very beginning, but she kept silent, guarding some secret of her own. I'm 33 years old, and I live in the suburbs of Chicago, in a quiet and peaceful place where nothing foreshadowed a storm. I work as a delivery driver on the night shift, mainly transporting medical supplies and equipment between clinics and warehouses. It's an exhausting job that requires a lot of effort and takes a lot of energy. But the pay is steady, which in my position with a mortgage and a small child was the most important thing. My wife, Emily, worked in a doctor's office, answering phone calls and doing paperwork. We had been together since college, through thick and thin. At first, we rented a tiny apartment where there was barely enough room for two, and then, taking out a loan, we bought our own house, which became our fortress. And then our son Liam was born, a little angel who illuminated our lives with bright light. He was the brightest and most precious thing I had, and it was for him that I worked so hard at night, without sparing myself. My mom, Karen, lives just 15 minutes away from us, which was very convenient. Since my dad left her, she has lived alone, dedicating herself to caring for others. She helped us a lot, especially when I switched to the night shift and Emily started asking for time for herself, which at first seemed quite reasonable. At first, everything seemed normal, ordinary, like everyone else. Of course, there was fatigue, routine, the chaos of everyday life, but it was inevitable. But we were a family, loving and caring. At least that's what I thought, naively believing that everything was fine. About 5 months before everything collapsed like a house of cards, I began to notice strange things that crept into my soul like snake venom. Emily began to go out more often in the evenings, finding more and more excuses. First it was yoga, then dinner with Jessica, and then just meeting a friend without specific names or details. I didn't ask questions, trusting her implicitly and not suspecting anything. Everyone needs rest, an opportunity to relax and escape from worries. She deserved some time for herself to regain strength and energy. Mom was always happy to look after Liam, seeing it as her duty and calling. Let Emily get some fresh air. Take a break, she said. You're constantly at work and she's home alone with the child. Women need personal space, freedom. I nodded, agreeing with her every word, believing that Mom knew better because she had more experience and wisdom. She had always been one to put peace and harmony above all else. And even when my father left us, she said, "Don't hold a grudge. It's much more important to keep the family together than to win an argument." However, something began to awaken inside me. Emily changed, as if an invisible shadow covered her soul. She became more irritable, like a taut string ready to snap at any moment, less gentle with Liam, as if an invisible wall had arisen between them. She put a password on her phone, something she had never done before, as if she was hiding something important. I asked her several times, "Is everything okay? You seem distant." She smiled as if nothing was happening, as if she was hiding a storm behind a mask of calm. "Just tired, Brian. Don't start making things up." However, late returns became more and more frequent, turning into an alarming pattern. Sometimes at 11, sometimes after midnight, as if she was lost in time. "Jessica is going through a divorce. I can't leave her alone," she said, but something in her voice sounded false. "Okay, support your friend, I understand." But why this strange perfume that didn't belong to her, like the scent of someone else's secret? Why did her eyes look away from mine, as if they were a mirror of her conscience? And why did my mom suddenly start saying things like, "Don't pressure her. You're never home. She's young. It's hard for her." And then it dawned on me, maybe Mom knows something, maybe she saw something I didn't. Or maybe she was just trying to stay neutral, like a diplomat in a minefield. One Friday, I was hastily eating dinner at the kitchen table before work, as if time was urging me on. Emily had gone to a girls' night out, as if she had dissolved into the night. Liam was asleep, lulled by the silence. Mom was sitting with me, her gaze full of sadness. I asked, "Doesn't it seem strange to you that she's been going out so often lately?" Mom sighed, as if she was carrying the burden of other people's secrets on her shoulders. "Are you trying to control her?" "No, I just don't understand. We hardly ever see each other. I go to work at night, she goes out during the day, then she goes out in the evening. Is that normal?" She put her hand on mine. Her touch was warm and soothing. "Brian, just don't be so harsh. Women are more complicated than you think. Give her space. Liam is fine, and that's the most important thing." I swallowed this conversation like a bitter pill, not knowing how to digest it. Maybe she's right. Maybe I'm just tired and thinking too much, giving in to my fears and suspicions. 2 weeks later, something happened that was forever etched in my memory. I came back from work earlier than usual. The delivery was canceled at the last moment. There was a ringing silence in the house. I went inside and I saw Liam sitting on the couch with Mom. They were watching cartoons intently. "Where's Emily?" I asked, feeling an inexplicable anxiety growing inside. Mom flinched almost imperceptibly. It was almost imperceptible, like a shadow, but I noticed. "She went to the store for wine. She said she'd be back by the beginning of the movie." Her answer sounded, but something in her voice made me wary. I nodded, trying to hide the approaching suspicion. "How long ago did she leave?" I asked, trying to stay calm. 40 minutes ago," she replied, avoiding my gaze. 40 minutes? To buy wine? My question sounded louder than I expected. She fell silent, her eyes fixed on the TV screen as if I wasn't even there. I didn't press it. I just went to take a shower to clear my head a little. I didn't want to make a scene, especially with my mom. She's just trying to help, right? That night, behind the wheel of the truck, on a route that I knew by heart, the truth hit me like a punch in the gut. I don't ask direct questions because I'm scared to death of the answers. Because I know, somewhere deep inside, she's not just drifting away. Trust is slipping through my fingers like water. My wife is slipping away. And the worst thing? My mom knows, and she's hiding it. After that Friday, I changed. I didn't become paranoid, but I became sharper. I started noticing things that I had previously ignored, as if they were invisible. Now Emily took her makeup bag with her, even when she said she was going to a friend's house. She wore perfume that she usually saved for special occasions. One day she forgot an earring in the bathroom, the one she never wore just like that. I asked, "Where did you and Jessica go?" "To a wine bar, then to her house. Why?" "Just curious." "Don't start, okay? Things are already difficult," she replied, and there was irritation in her voice. I turned to my mom again. She kept repeating the same thing. "Every couple has difficult times, just don't make any sudden moves." I didn't, but I started digging. I'm not a hacker, but I'm not stupid either. One night while she was sleeping peacefully, I, driven by an inexplicable impulse, scanned the WhatsApp web code and discreetly connected her correspondence to my work laptop. As you will find out later, this decision changed my life forever. There weren't many messages, as if she was carefully covering her tracks, deleting evidence. However, something still survived, like a mockery of fate. The contact was signed succinctly, "Mike, you were on fire tonight. My legs are still shaking. I miss you. Your look drives me crazy. I can't pretend anymore when I'm with him." I was shaking, but not from anger, as one might assume, from a chilling cold. The kind that originates somewhere deep in the soul and spreads like poison, paralyzing the will and mind. And all this time she kissed our son goodnight like a guardian angel, and all this time she crept into bed next to me, while she was writing that she had to pretend with me. The next day, I decided to find out at all costs who was hiding under this name, Mike. I ran the number through a special service, sales manager at a car dealership located just 10 minutes from our house. Divorced, 2 children, tall, fit, impeccable. This wasn't a fleeting affair, as I naively believed. She was building a whole life with him, full of hopes and plans, while I, as if cursed, was building my devilish night schedule to keep our mortgage ark afloat. But the final blow, as is often the case, came later. I adjusted my shift to stay home without warning. I told Emily I was working as usual. Mom came to look after Liam as always. At 7:30 p.m., Emily started getting ready. Jessica is having a tough day today. I won't be long. I just nodded in response, trying not to betray the storm raging inside. Sure. She left, leaving me alone with my thoughts. 10 minutes later, I got into my car and followed her like a shadow. Mike lived in a townhouse with a garage. I watched as she walked up to the house, and he came out to her in a t-shirt, hugged her, kissed her. She was laughing. She was laughing, as if there wasn't a drop of grief or sorrow in her world. I sat in my car as if paralyzed. 5 minutes. 10. Then I turned around and drove home, unable to endure this torture any longer. I couldn't bring myself to go any further. I didn't want to see what would happen next. At home, my mom was pouring tea as if nothing had happened. She sat at the kitchen table, radiating calm and serenity. Is everything okay? She asked, piercing me with her gaze. I sat down opposite her, feeling devastated and broken. You knew, I said, each word like a hammer blow. She froze like a statue suddenly brought to life and then turned to stone again. Knew what? Her question sounded full of feigned ignorance, but anxiety splashed in her eyes. About Mike, about how she wasn't going to see a friend, about how she was going to him. You knew. Each accusation cut through the air like a blade. Karen was silent for a long time, as if weighing every word, every movement. Then she lowered her eyes, avoiding my searing gaze. Yes, she whispered, as if confessing to a serious crime. I knew. I clenched my fists until my knuckles turned white, anger rising in me like an uncontrollable avalanche. How long? 3 months, maybe longer. At first I didn't understand. Then she told me herself. She was crying. She said she was confused. She asked me not to tell you. She said it would be over soon. So you took her side? My voice was full of despair and anger, mixed into a poisonous cocktail. No, she stammered, looking for excuses for her actions. You're my mother, not her friend. I cut her off, not giving her a chance to evade the answer. She began to mutter something about keeping the family together, about how everything can still be saved, and I thought you'd figure it out yourself. Her words were like pathetic attempts to put out a fire with gasoline. I wasn't listening. My ears were ringing as if from an explosion. The room seemed smaller and smaller, as if the walls were closing in, ready to crush me. Too hot, too crowded, not enough air. I stood up. Don't come here anymore. Each word was like carved from stone. Brian, she tried to object, but I didn't give her a chance. Just don't come. I cut her off, not wanting to hear her excuses anymore. I closed the door behind her and suddenly realized I was really alone, finally and irrevocably. That same evening I spoke to Emily. I didn't yell. There were no hysterics, no accusations. I just said, I know about Mike. She turned pale, as if an icy wind had touched her. At first she tried to lie, but the lie stuck in her throat like a bone. Then she just started crying, silently and desperately. I'm sorry. I didn't want to. Her words were just an echo of her betrayal. You're leaving. I cut her off, not giving her a chance to justify herself. Can I take Liam for a few days? Her question sounded full of hope and fear. No, he stays with me. You leave right now. My answer was like a sentence. She packed her things in 15 minutes, as if running away from a fire. She didn't even say goodbye to our son, as if he was a stranger. She just slammed the door. And when the door closed behind her, I felt neither anger nor relief. Only silence, silence that hummed in my bones, as if the world had stopped and whispered, now you're on your own. Emily left quickly, as if running away from a pursuer. No tears, no pleas for forgiveness, no attempts to explain her actions, nothing but a hasty escape. She didn't even hug Liam goodbye, as if she was afraid to touch him, or maybe she just didn't know how, as if maternal instinct was alien and incomprehensible to her. I was left alone with a child, 1,000 questions, and the feeling that my whole life had deflated like an old tire. I didn't tell Liam the truth. He was too young to understand the complexity of the situation. I just said, Mom had to go away for a while. She'll call. He nodded, calmly, but in his eyes, as you will find out later, I noticed something that only adults have, as if he knew more than he understood. The first few weeks were the hardest. Work, cooking, laundry, trips to kindergarten, and at the same time trying to remember that I have a body and a soul. I woke up at 6:30 a.m., made pancakes, dressed Liam, took him to kindergarten, work, picked him up, dinner, bath, bedtime stories, all alone. On weekends we went to the park. Liam loved feeding the ducks. He often asked, "Is mom coming with us next time?" At first I said, "We'll see." Then just, "Nobody, just us." Karen didn't show up. I didn't write to her, and neither did she. But I knew she was waiting, that she would give it time and come back to talk. However, this is only the beginning, and she did come, a month later. She was standing at the door with a bag of groceries, as if nothing had changed. "I just want to help," she said. "You've already helped," I replied. I didn't know what to do. She begged me. I really didn't want to hurt you. Then why stand between me and the truth? She lowered her eyes. "Because I was afraid you'd break." "I broke, but not because of Emily, because of you." She left the bag, turned around, and left. I closed the door and cried. For the first time in a long time. Not from pain, from exhaustion. Gradually, everything began to change. I switched to day shifts to be home with Liam in the evenings. I learned to cook meatloaf, his favorite dish. I found a soccer club for him. New curtains took their place, as if a breath of fresh air had burst into the house, changing its atmosphere beyond recognition. The old ones chosen by Emily went into oblivion, giving way to a new beginning, as if erasing the last traces of the past that had weighed so heavily on my shoulders for so long. And the house really began to breathe differently, filling with calm and peace, as if the sun had come out after a long storm. Emily occasionally reminded herself with messages, like a ghost from the past that can't find peace. "How are you two doing?" she wrote, as if trying to feel a connection that had long been broken. "I miss Liam," she confessed, as if trying to evoke pity, but causing only a painful silence in response. "Can I see him?" she asked, as if she had the right to, although she had once given him up herself. I didn't refuse, leaving the door open for meetings, but on the condition of my presence, as if putting an invisible barrier between the past and the present. No sleepovers, no family dinners, as if drawing a line that cannot be crossed. At first, Liam was happy to see her, his eyes lit up with hope, as if a small sun was breaking through the clouds. But then, gradually, the joy faded, like the flame of a candle blown out by the wind. And then one day, after she left, he asked, looking at me with his childish eyes full of incomprehension, "Is mom leaving again?" As if afraid to hear confirmation of his fears. I nodded, unable to find words to ease his pain, as if taking on the entire burden of his childish sadness. He didn't cry, he just went back to his toy cars, as if trying to escape from reality into a world of fantasy. Several months later, for the first time in a long time, I fell asleep peacefully, as if freed from a heavy burden. No obsessive thoughts, no invented conversations, no bitter memories, as if cleansed of everything that poisoned my soul. Only sleep deep and serene, like a long-awaited salvation. And this became the beginning of my return to life, like the sunrise after a long night. 8 months have passed. Time is relentlessly moving forward, bringing changes. Liam is 5 years old. He reads syllable by syllable, mastering the world of knowledge like a little explorer. He says he wants to be a superhero like Dad. His words sound like an echo of my own dream. I smile, looking at him, as if seeing in him my continuation, my hope. I'm not a superhero, alas. I'm just an ordinary person with my own weaknesses and fears. But I'm his dad, his one and only hero. And I'm doing everything I can to be him, to protect him from all troubles and adversities like a knight guarding his castle. Mom still writes sometimes, as if trying to establish a connection, but unsuccessfully. Holiday greetings banal and soulless. A photo of a pie baked by her, as if trying to show her care, but causing only a cloying taste. I don't answer. My silence is more eloquent than any words. Maybe one day I will answer, when time heals the wounds, but not now, not yet. She chose silence when I needed the truth most of all. Her betrayal was a stab in the back, like a knife plunged into the very heart. And That's the hardest thing to carry in yourself, like an unbearable burden that weighs on your shoulders. To know that even those you trusted most can turn away from you in your darkest hour, betraying your hopes and dreams. What is the moral of this story? Betrayal hurts, that's a fact that doesn't require proof. But the silence of those you once relied on cuts even deeper, like a blade sliding over exposed nerves. Colder, more merciless, leaving no chance of healing. Because you never expect a blow from that side, from those who were supposed to be there, who were supposed to support you in a difficult moment. Now I'm not afraid to be alone. I've learned to live with it, as if I've accepted my fate. Not because I like it, loneliness is not something to strive for, but because I realized loneliness is more honest than living in a lie, than living in pretense. And if you doubt whether to tell the truth to someone you love, don't doubt it. Tell it. Because the truth doesn't destroy, as many people think, it only brings pain and disappointment. It saves, frees from the chains of lies, even if it hurts at first, even if it seems that the world is collapsing before your eyes.